Welcome back to this mini lecture. This one's on David Carr's article, Is Google Making Us Stupid? This is part two, the cognitive impact on reading. So I'll look a little bit on Carr's thoughts on how Google and other search engines, etc., have affected our reading. Over the past few years, I've had an uncomfortable sense that someone or something has been tinkering with my brain, remapping the neural circuitry, reprogramming the memory. My mind isn't going, so as far as I can tell, but it's changing. I'm not thinking the way I used to think. Has your brain or mind changed from tech use? If so, has that changed worsened since COVID? I think a lot of people have been focusing more on technology, so whatever trends that Carr was talking about probably have accelerated during COVID. I can feel it most strongly when I'm reading, immersing myself in a book or a lengthy article. Used to be easy. My mind would get caught up in the narrative or the turns of the argument, and I'd spend hours strolling through long stretches of prose. That's rarely the case anymore. Now my concentration often starts to drift after 2 or 3 pages. I get fidgety, lose the thread, begin looking for something else to do. I feel as if I'm always dragging my wayward brain back to the text. The deep reading that used to come naturally has become a struggle. Has reading become a struggle, or at least different for you? I'd say for myself, I have a very similar thing where my concentration drifts very quickly. I wouldn't even say after 2 or 3 pages. Probably much sooner than that, because again, I'm used to going between screens when I read online. Quote as the media theorist Marshall McLuhan pointed out in the 60s, media are not just the passive channels of information. They supply the stuff of thought, but they also shape the process of thought. And what the net seems to be doing is chipping away my capacity for concentration and contemplation. My mind now expects it to take in information the way the net distributes it, in a swiftly moving stream of particles. Once I was a scuba diver in the sea of words, now I zip along the surface like a guy on a jet ski. To you, similarly to Carr, zip along the surface rather than deep dive. I find for myself, I need to be much more focused on writing notes when I read to ensure that I do a deep dive. I will zip along like I do when I read. I often want to now scroll through the same way you would on a phone, where you just just work your way through your phone and you just sort of pick up bits and pieces of information here and there. Quote, I'm not the only one. I want to mention my troubles with reading to friends and acquaintances. Literary tapes most often. Many say they're having similar experiences. The more they use the web, the more they have to fight to stay focused on long pieces of writing. Do you fight to stay focused on long writing? Has this changed since COVID? Again, I have similar experiences where I have, again, not troubles reading, but I have trouble concentrating for long periods of time. And it's especially acute for longer pieces where you really have to stand for the long haul and really, really focus to get the sustained experience you need to from a long piece of text. Pathologist Bruce Friedman, who blogs regularly about the use of computers in medicine, also described how the internet has altered his mental habits. And I have almost totally lost the ability to read and absorb a longish article on the web or in print, he wrote. His thinking has taken on a staccato quality, reflecting the way he quickly scans short passages of text from many sources online. I can't read War and Peace anymore. I've lost the ability to do that. Even a blog post of more than 3 or 4 paragraphs is too much to absorb. I skim it. Again, do you skim rather than absorb? I wonder, this sounds a little bit, or maybe a little bit excessive. Like what he says, even a blog post of 3 or 4 paragraphs is too much to absorb. That really seems to be really bad for his profession, given he's a pathologist and he works in post-secondary. It is very difficult to read and absorb long articles on the web or in print. I would totally acknowledge that. And again, we need to come up with different strategies to sort of account for that now as we read more and more digital text. It's clear that users are not reading online in the traditional sense. Instead, there are signs that new forms of reading are emerging as users browse horizontally through titles, contents pages, and abstracts, going for quick wins. It almost seems that they go online to avoid reading in this traditional sense. Do you go online to avoid reading in the traditional sense? I don't know if we do that specifically, but I think it's just the way that we look when we say, if we're reading like gossip columns or short news pieces, entertainment, etc., sports. I think for that, we often, for less important information, we look at titles, we look at the contents pages if there are any, we look through abstracts or short summaries at the top of a page, and I think that's sort of cascaded through to our more important reading online especially. Marianne Wolf worries that the style of reading promoted by the net, a style that puts efficiency and immediacy above all else, maybe weaken our capacity for this kind of deep reading that emerged when an earlier technology, the printing press, made long and complex works of prose commonplace. When we read online, she says, we tend to become mere decoders of information. Our ability to interpret text, to make the rich mental connections that form when we read deeply with it, distraction remains largely disengaged. Do you have any problems deep reading online? How would you remedy that? And what are the long-term impact of shallow reading? Again, both online and offline, when I read longer texts, it's more of a struggle to ensure that I need to keep focused. Again, so I'm much more cognizant of something important. I write notes. It is efficient and it is immediate, and I need to sort of focus against that and fight against that. I'm sure that you do that as well. So that's something that works for me. I think we all have to figure out our own paths. I think my biggest concern is that the long-term impact is we have a world of people reading more online, reading with less attention spans, that are reading for efficiency and immediacy and do not do the deep interpretation, the deep connections that we need. And as a result, I wonder and I worry about the long-term consequences of that many people, the entire global planet, like a high proportion that are online doing that. It can't be a good outcome. That was Is Google Making Us Stupid? Part 2, Cognitive Impact on Reading. Thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.